And I'm now delighted to be joined by Independent Councillor for the Tullow Electoral Area, Willie Patton. Will, you're very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup. We're having a cup of coffee and having a chat here. I think we spoke just before the local elections last year. I'm sure it's been a busy couple of months since then. And what are the big issues coming up in your electoral area?
Thanks very much for having me on, Paul. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, it's been, it almost seems like the election happened 2 or 3 years ago at this stage, because there's been so much water under the bridge. I think the number one issue that's still coming up for people and for their major concern is housing. We're fortunate enough in Tullow that we have 69 houses under construction. They're both, one of them in the 48 house scheme is an approved housing body, CHI, and they are developing houses on the Carlow Road. The big disappointment with the delivery of those houses that we had expected had some of them before Christmas, and we had been told that they would all be available in February. Now we're now literally practically into April and there's no sign of these houses. So the thing we've been told is that there are infrastructural issues, and we're sort of struggling with what does that actually mean.
It means everything and nothing at the same time.
So I've asked at the last Tullow Municipal District meeting, I asked a lot of hard questions about what this means, but I was drawing a lot of blanks. So I'm hoping sooner rather than later to discover what exactly infrastructural issues are. But unfortunately, it means the houses will not be delivered now until Q3, which means sometime in July, August, September. Right. But at the same time, I suppose we have a second scheme working on the Thomas Traynor Road in Tullow, where we have 21 houses being delivered by a local contractor. So maybe they'll all come in at the same time. Even since before that, then we managed to get on the repair and lease scheme, the RLS scheme, we managed to get 11 units in what was the former Slaney Hotel, which has now been, well, that was renamed maybe a decade ago as the Slaney House. So we have a mixture of, there's 3 2-bed houses, townhouses in it. There are a couple of there's 2 2-beds and 1 single bed at the back for more aimed at older people. Yes. And then there's 4, I think, more in the front, which would have been apartment style buildings. Okay, and it's good to see. So there is some delivery in Tullow
that were, vacant for a long period of time being brought back into use.
Yeah, and I'm actually happy enough. There's another 2 buildings in Tullow likely to be delivered under the RLS scheme. I'm happy enough to see. I suppose you have to weigh up. It's a former commercial building. It's an awful eyesore in a prominent place in the town. And is it ever going to be a pub again? And the answer is no, it's never going to be a pub again. So what do you do with these buildings? The repair and lease scheme at least allows for those buildings to be converted into a living accommodation. But, and I think this is the important but, it's really important that we maintain a commercial / retail streetscape in the town centre. Because if everything in the town centre starts to turn into a town house, then there's no town shopping centre area left. So for me, as long as the developers retain the outside characteristics of the building, make it look like it's retail, I don't have too much problem with it. But at the same time, I'd say there is a limit to how many of those buildings we need in Tullow right now.
Exactly. And I suppose, as I said, housing is a big issue. What other issues will be coming up?
Well, I suppose what's really hitting everybody at the moment is that Irish Water are undertaking a leak reduction programme in Tullow. It's a very ambitious programme. It started at the beginning of this month and it's going to last till September. And essentially, you're talking about replacing 100-year-old cast iron metal pipes.
100-year-old pipes?
Yeah, wow. Really old cast iron metal pipes with new, I think it's polyurethane. I could have that wrong, but they're heavy-duty plastic 6-inch pipes, which will carry the water that's manufactured at the Ballymurphy Water Treatment Plant in Tullow throughout the town. So it's causing some disruption. For instance, to date now, they've done the middle section of Mill Street, which runs from what most people would remember as the former slip-in up to PJ Duffy's, and then running from Duffy's to back to the Market Square. Next week, they're going to start on the main thoroughfare through town. And just to reassure people that the works will be done mainly at night time.
Yes.
It is still going to involve some disruption during the day. There's absolutely no doubt that some people will be put out for a couple of months while this work is happening. But my experience is that the contractors on behalf of Irish Water, that's Share Ridge and ECLR, led by Jonathan and Corey, they're doing their level best to cooperate with people, and they're sharing information and sending me wonderful aerial photographs of Tullow when the streets have been torn up, and I've been putting up on my Facebook page there. Brilliant. Independent Councillor Willie Patton, for anybody who wants to know, and it's there, and you can see the photographs. I think people appreciate knowing what's happening and understanding.
Yes.
They also shared with me some photographs of the inside of one of these 100-year-old cast iron pipes.
I'm sure that made interesting viewing.
Well, I was trying to figure out why I was drinking water, how any of us could drink water out of it, because up to about 25% of the internal side of the pipes was literally covered in rust. And you're thinking, you're drinking water is flushing along here, going to this. I'm getting plenty of iron in my water.
Yeah, very true.
So the new system will really help. So it'll cover areas like John Street, Bishop Street, Old Chapel Lane, New Chapel Lane, Mill Street, and then down through the town centre. That'll be Bridge Street, the Market Square, and then back up to Church Street. And that should be a once-in-a-lifetime project, in the sense that those pipes should last 2 or 3 generations, hopefully. But it's good to me. Now, some people see this as a negative thing. It's more disruption. I see it as, this is good news story for Tullow.
Yeah. Because
at the same time, we have another side of Irish Water investing a lot of money in expanding the wastewater capacity.
Yes, and when we talk about housing, the water connection, wastewater, that's a big part of delivering housing that we need. And when you talk to different councillors across the country, when you mention Irish Water, you get a very, very mixed bag. But it's good to see that there's a good news story about Irish Water. And what are your thoughts on Irish Water as a concept? Is it a good thing that there's a national utility looking after water supply, or some people are saying, should it go back to the way it was, where the councils had control?
I've listened carefully to comments made by councillors in the chamber, and I think the most councillors would think that the new Irish Water structure is pretty good. Where any structure falls down is where it's not investing. For instance, the problems we have problems in Tinryland. For instance, we can't build new houses in Tinryland because there's no wastewater treatment plant available. Ardatton, we actually as a council have plans to build 6 houses in it, but we've been told by Irish Water no can do. Wow. The existing centre, the treatment centre, and it just cannot take any more. So while it's government policy, national policy, to encourage people to build and develop towns from the centre out, the problem is the infrastructure isn't quite always matches that ambition. So right now, I'm not even sure if Irish Water got a doubling of budget in the morning, that there would be the capacity in terms of developers with the right type of skill sets to go out and develop all these new wastewater treatment plants that we need urgently. Yeah,
it certainly is it's a big issue, and it's something, Roisin, that we're going to be looking at in the next couple of weeks on water infrastructure, and where do we go from that going forward. But
well, there's a real good news story for Tullow in this Irish Water. When these works are over, the wastewater treatment plant will be able to hold a capacity of, call it a population equivalent of up to 9,000 people. Wow. Tullow's 5,200. So we have good expansion. Plus our water is secure in the sense that we now have a new pipework. So I suspect we'll have a new start really getting into the work of creating a new local area plan for Tullow now in say about 4 months' time.
Okay.
And I suspect you'll see Tullow having another growth spurt yet again.
Yes.
Previously, that was driven by the Dublin market, people coming from Dublin. And I think Tullow is a very multicultural town. If you look at it, 20% of the people who live in Tullow weren't even born in the Republic of Ireland.
Right.
So it's a multicultural town. It has its teething problems with that, but I think it's becoming more recognised that, they're not all effing foreigners. Like, there are people making real contributions to our town and to our society. And I certainly see it with groups like the Men's Shed.
Yeah, they're brilliant across the country.
Absolutely. And even this morning, I was an instructor at a Heart Saver course. There was 11 people on it, and 3 of our new residents in Tullow were actually participating and learning how to save a life. So, there's plenty of positive news here. The one sad bit is when you see an Irish business closing down. Yeah. And certainly this week, Tuesday coming, we say a farewell, and a sad and fond farewell, to PJ Duffy, currently owned. It's a, how would you call it, haberdashery, I suppose, a store where you get a needle from I was going to say needle from an anchor, but it's needle from a knickers almost like. But
and he has
stuff you wouldn't find in shops anywhere else. Like if you're looking for a pink zip that you wouldn't think you get, well, it's definitely in Duffy's. Like, just have a look. Or my father was always a great man for the long johns and keeping himself warm, and you could get them there. So it served the town faithfully under different owners for over 100 years. Wow. And the centenary is Tuesday coming. I can't remember the date, but it's coming, and unfortunately the business is closing.
That's
so I'd say to the owner, Arnold, thank you very much for all you've done for the Tullow community. To his staff, I'm sure I'll forget someone, but Antoinette, Anne, Eileen and Ollie, thank you for being not just just people working there. You looked after your customers very, very well, and we're sorry to see you go, and we wish you all the very happy retirement. And it's a happy, sad day, and so I know they're celebrating on Tuesday, so we wish them all the best.
Well, you just spoke about a small local business closing down 100 years with different owners. How are you finding the small local businesses? Are they closing down? Is there more starting up? Because small local businesses in the high streets and surrounding streets is the DNA and the heart of our community. What are you finding there? And they build the local economy as well.
Absolutely. It's very tough in business at the moment. I'm in business. I know how tough it is. Cash flow is crucial, and it's getting harder to keep cash flow going. I'm very lucky with most of my customers. Well, 1 or 2 are lagging behind, and you have to keep a constant eye on every time you buy something. You're looking to see what is the increase from the last time. You're looking to see how can you cut overheads. What overheads are there that you could. And, a lot of people have gone in and done all the low-lying fruit, and now the hard decisions are being made. So how do you cut staff? Do you reduce trading hours? What do you have to do? I suppose we've been very fortunate. There have been a number of government initiatives over the last year, helping people based on rates, but they have been of help, and I'll acknowledge that. There is a streetscape scheme, or streetscape paint scheme available in Tullow at the moment to help the traders. So if anybody in the town centre, both residential houses and commercial, would like assistance to help paint, upkeep their property, we actually have a very good scheme there running up until the 30th of April. It's an online scheme. It requires 2 quotes from a contractor and a photograph of the house beforehand, and you fill the form. And you can be awarded up to 80% of the cost of painting the building, or a maximum of €1,500. And that's a big boost to a business. Like, it's a case of, well, if you do it right, you can probably get your building painted for free this year. And it's a great scheme to help people. And I'd encourage anyone in the main streets of Tullow. Have a look at Carlow County Council's website. If you can't find it, certainly give me a contact, and I'll give you the right information so you can chase down the grant. But it is tough in business. We've seen 2 businesses close in Mill Street in Tullow in the last couple of months. But we've equally seen 1 or 2 new ones come up. And I suppose Tullow has been very lucky in that the vacancy rate in commercial buildings is the lowest in County Carlow and remains the lowest.
Which is very good.
Yeah, around 12.5%. But I have no doubt businesses are really being challenged. I mean, I'm looking at it from the point of view as a business person. I buy some goods from America. I'm waiting for the tariff.
Right.
25% tariff on sandblasting tape is not going to make it any easier for me to sell. It's going to make it much more difficult. The fact is the dollar was at a better exchange rate for us. So now it's 1.08, but it had been 1.25. So it was cheaper for me to buy. So now my product is costing me more. There's VAT, there's duty, and now I'm being told there's possibility of a tariff. So that's going to make something quite difficult. Brexit certainly was no help whatsoever. The paperwork nightmare of bringing something in from the UK is just horrible. The exchange rate's not great either at the moment. So you're talking a minimum of 20% on top of the cost of the goods in sterling. If you get caught for VAT, if you get caught for duty, then your cash flow is going out to pay all these things.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to wait. You get 30 days from most suppliers now, and you mightn't sell for 3 months. So you're seeing your bank balance is reducing, and you're wondering what's happening here. But it's all about taxes now at the moment, and we need to be careful with business. That said, I must really thank the business people in Tullow for the support for the community.
Yes.
Without which a lot of voluntary and sporting organisations wouldn't exist.
That's very true, because when there's an event taking place, or there's a local team that needs a new set of jerseys, who do they call on? The local businesses and
table quizzes.
And table quizzes, exactly. And they always step up to the mark.
Yeah, and I think people have to recognise that if businesses are stepping up to the mark, there has to be a quid pro quo here that shop local, support local. Yeah, and I think 100%. That's important. It becomes a little bit difficult now with the closure of PJ Duffy in Tullow. Like, there's no men's or women's clothing shops left in Tullow.
Wow.
So you now are going to take that trip to Carlow or order online. Seems to be the way a lot of people are doing it. Certainly I use Fastways for my business for deliveries, and around Christmas, Easter, oh my God, the amount of packages coming in and the lads will tell you on the van, the amount of returns is even astonishing too. Yeah. So, if we can at all possible, I think we need to think about, do we really need to buy those clothes that we're buying or whatever we're buying, the product? I'm not saying you can't buy it, I'm just saying, do we need to? Yeah. Certainly from a climate change and environmental view, it's quite difficult. I'm currently doing the AILG's Climate Crisis and Local Government course, which within UCC Cork, and I found it very interesting. What the average person may not understand is that Ireland has to, as a country of a whole, cut its greenhouse gas emissions by 51% by the year 2030. Right, 2030. I think there's 2.5 years, 4 years and 9 months left to hit that target. Carlow County Council is working away trying to hit its targets. It's 43% at the moment. And we have a lot of work to do in Carlow County Council to cut. But I think everybody can make a change. Like, there's very simple things we can do. We can, for instance, with Tidy Towns in Tullow, and the chairman of the Tidy Towns group there, we've probably one of the first Tidy Towns groups across Ireland to have a climate change strategy. So we do things like rainwater harvesting.
Okay.
So we catch water off the roof of Tullow Parish Centre, and we have 4 1,000 litre IBC tanks there.
Okay.
So when we water flowers or floral arrangements in Tullow, it's not with water that's taken out of the river, and it doesn't come out of a tap, it comes out of the sky.
Okay.
Right? Another approach would be to look at our planting and ask ourselves, what are we planting? Should we be planting, drought-resistant plants, which we are? We're looking at flowers that we plant. Are they biodiversity friendly, bee friendly, to the extent like that we have planted a lot of crocuses, snowdrops, muscary armenium, so that these are plants that come out and flower early that are useful to early bees. One of our most recent projects was putting up solitary bee boxes.
Yeah.
So, making somewhere safe for them. We invested last year in a beehive. One of our committee members, Rory Keogh, there is looking after that. So we have our own beehive. We've just done a study on bats, and we've discovered that Tullow has quite an array of bats. I didn't know if you know this, but there are 9 bat species in Ireland.
Are there?
And we have 6 in Tullow.
6
in Tullow, including the rare one, which is great.
Okay.
So we're looking at what we might do to help the bats. In the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're looking at how can we help swifts, the birds that come across every April from Africa, and they come here to nest in buildings, and they fly back then in August, September.
Okay.
But something I don't know if you know much about swifts, but
not a lot, no.
They don't land. They spend their entire life in the air. That sounds mad, doesn't it? The only time they actually
so they have
land,
their head in the clouds.
They have their head in the clouds. I like your thinking. The only time the swifts land is actually when they go into a nest.
Right.
Yeah, and you can see the young ones, they're called bangers, up in the sky, and they've got a sickle-shaped wing. And we're very lucky. We've got 26 swift nests in Tullow, and part of our group has decided we did a count. Now we're putting up swift nest boxes across Tullow to try and increase the population, and in 2 or 3 years' time we'll count them and see did we have a good positive effect. Yeah. Lots of things going on that we can all be involved with.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, what is the name of the rare bat?
The rare bat.
Just off your head?
Malthusias comes into it, but I've just forgotten the name off the top of my head. Wow. I think it's not it's Malthusias. I think it's something like that.
Right, I never knew there was a...
Yeah. Well, they're actually mainly in Northern Ireland, but it's apparently we've got got a couple of species in Tullow. And how they tell is because they're very difficult to see, but they've got monitors that look very like a phone.
Okay.
And you can buy one of these for about €100, and they record the bat chirp or shrill that we can't hear, and they can look at the pattern, and from the pattern of the shrill they can say, yeah, that's a common pipistrelle, or that's a different type of bat, or so it's very interesting. We were thrilled. We couldn't believe this, and anyone who's interested in bats can come to Tullow. And one of the unique points we have in Tullow, we've got railings and a safe area for them to stand. And around 7:30 on any evening during the summer, you can stand next to the bridge house in Tullow and just lean over the rails, and the bats start coming out of the roosts, and you can see bats.
Brilliant.
It's amazing.
So would you say, Willie, you've become a bit of a Batman now?
I'm actually loving.
Tee that one up for me nicely.
I can tell you, I think the members of the Tidy Towns Committee and Develop Tullow Association think I've gone totally batty all over. But I think it's wonderful because there are so many bats, and it's particularly, you see a lot of them from between the 2 bridges. We've got the wooden pedestrian bridge, and then we've got the granite bridge, and there's a lot of bats in that area, but they go up north of the bridge as well. And we're now having a look at what we might do to help the bats. So we will have a look at bat nesting boxes. Wow. We're even thinking of one of the projects we might look at is a bat hotel.
Okay.
Right there.
At the Bat Cave.
The Bat Cave. That's good, the Bat Cave. And even simple things like there's a number of lights and businesses along the river, and their lights are shining into the river.
Okay.
And if they were clipped and maybe shaded a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, leave the security of the light there. But if they were tilted down a little bit,
Which is
we could,
not a massive job.
not a massive job. Maybe more bats of a particular variety might come in that direction.
Okay.
And, you know, we're going to talk about maybe bat murals and bat competitions. And I think we could easily see where we could, on certain nights, ask the kids to come down and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Although I have a number of committee members, and you know who I'm talking to, committee members that will not go down and look at it because these bats will definitely end up in their hair.
Yeah.
You know, which doesn't happen, by the way. But one particular lady, Loretta, is convinced she'll end up with bats in her hair and she won't come down. So whatever, it's not for everybody, but it's really interesting to see that type of biodiversity in the area. Between them and the swifts, we'll be working hard.
Paul, that's really curious. I'd love to actually go down and film it.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
Maybe someday you might take a step
Yeah,
and film
absolutely, yeah.
It could be like there's a new string to the bow for Tullow.
Tullow, yeah.
Become like a bat sanctuary.
Absolutely, and it's that they're there already, and that they've tolerated the people in the area, and that we actually have a viewing platform that doesn't need any alteration. We might put a few seats in.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're going to be going into their habitat. It's there already. The viewing platform's there naturally already, and they don't mind us.
Yeah.
And that's very good for children growing up to get back in touch with nature.
Absolutely.
And that's educational.
Oh, brilliant.
For children, even to know there's different variations of bats, different species, and the rare bats and the bees. Everything you're doing is the neurodiversity is bringing children and educating children back to nature, the way we grew up.
Yes, I think, people often think that Tidy Towns is literally about litter picking and keeping the place clean. Yes, it is. It's about that, but it's also an education and how we can help save our planet. There's a lot of marks there for biodiversity, and in fairness to Tullow Tidy Towns, we've done extremely well over the last 3 to 4 years in our marks. We've been the highest in the county in marks in terms of. The only downside is that we're actually a little bit poor on the litter side. You know, we're not as good as we should be.
Okay.
But you know, there's opportunities there for schools, for groups to come out, work together, residents' associations to do litter picks and to help. I suppose if there's one big downside at the moment is dog fouling.
Yeah, it seems to be a big issue across the board, and I know the county councils, it's their job to kind of implement and enforce, but it's so hard to get an enforcement.
It is, and like, to be fair, no one inspector can be everywhere all the time. But like, when I look at it from my perspective, is that I look around, I don't see too many stray dogs walking around the streets or running around the streets and defecating here, there and everywhere. So it comes down to, well, if they're not strays, who are they? Well, these are somebody's pet and somebody's out walking them. And you do actually have the occasional owner has no regard for anyone else, and the dog does its business, leaves it there, and they make no attempt to pick it up, move it on. I'd say to anyone, please think about what you're doing. There are parasites in dog feces that can be dangerous to children, adults, if they're ingested. Somebody using a wheelchair, pick it up in a wheelchair. I mean, how many times have you walked in it, sworn, and you know, you spend the next half hour trying to get it off your shoe, bring it home, you're washing it, and the smell, one thing, it's not nice. So one of the things we'll be looking at in Tidy Towns this year is maybe a dog fouling campaign.
Very good.
Bringing some of our local councillors together with members of the committee, volunteers, and staff from Carlow County Council, literally going out, putting a number of stencils on the ground just to remind people you have to pick it up, and then meeting dog owners and chatting to them and saying, listen, do you have plastic bags? Oh, you're down to the last one. Listen, I have a bundle here of 20. I'd like you to have them. We appreciate that you're a good dog owner, that you're doing the right thing. And you know, there's no point sending them out at 7 o'clock at night, because there's people walking dogs at 6:30 in the morning, as you know. So we're going to have to go out and meet and greet all the different types of dog owners. But it's an issue in the towns at the moment. I hear members constantly complaining about it at council meetings.
I had a dog, and unfortunately she died. But the one I still have poop and scoop bags.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's something that everybody, and every dog owner who I know around me,
Yeah.
you went into every coat. There was a poop and scoop bag.
Yeah. And look, people needn't worry about this. I mean, one of the things, if you do poop and scoop and you have the plastic bag, you can put it in any litter bin at all. It doesn't have to be a dog poo bin. Put it in any litter bin. It'll be disposed of. But please don't hang it from a tree or don't throw it in somebody's garden. That's just, and most importantly, clean up after your dog. It's just a decent thing to do. It's part of the responsibilities of being a dog owner.
And even if I even used to buy nappy bags. Yeah. The nappy bags had a nice fragrance, so you weren't walking around with
That's a good idea. Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah.
With the nappy bags, so they're quite good as well. Not biodiverse, but they still help in some way.
And will you have a number of notes here, and a good few other projects that you've been working on that you've been lucky to get funding?
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on in the area. We're working hard there with our area engineer, Pat Harrington, and there's one issue that keeps coming up at council level whole actually is this: the new climate change has had an impact on some of the grants. So if you mentioned the housing aid for older people, whereas before, if I was 66 years of age or older, and my heating system packed in from old age, or it was just simply beyond economic use anymore, the councils were able to assist the person to replace the oil-fired central heating burner or the gas burner. Unfortunately, since the 1st of January this year, it's no longer permissible to assist with a grant to heat a house with fossil fuels. So it's become a real issue. You have somebody who is 66, 76, has no heating system at this moment in time, or it's on its last legs, and yet while there's a grant available, the grant is not available to replace the oil-fired central heating. Yeah. So they face a problem. What do they do? So essentially they're going to have to go to SEAI and revamp their entire heating system. They're talking about insulation in walls. They're talking about maybe new doors, new windows. Talking about air to.
We're talking a lot more.
Yeah. So a new heater, a pump, or a new oil-fired central heating burner would be about maybe 5,000 to maybe 6 to get it installed. But they're talking maybe 20 something or 30,000 something in order to go the other way. Now it's a cost we're going to have to pay, because to be perfectly honest, we can't keep going the way we are with fossil fuels. It's just going to run out. Ireland as a whole, we're leading towards more and more renewable energies. And I think by 2030, we are supposed to have 80% of our energy coming from renewable sources. So you've probably noticed a massive growth in the amount of solar farms.
Yes.
And that's certainly true around the Tullow area. We see them out in Cllr in particular, and in the Ratrush area, we've seen a lot of planning applications. In fact, the council turned down a planning application in that general area, the Ratrush area, this week because it was just deemed too big. I suspect that the developer will probably take a case on board Pleanála, and given the way national policy is going, they will probably reverse that decision. Look, it's hard to know.
Do you think renewable energy will be sufficient to heat Ireland? We're an island, and we're a very damp island.
I've seen a number of studies and through our lectures that suggest that Ireland could be completely energy efficient with renewable energies if we could get offshore wind energy going. Our problem is we don't have a single. I think there's one offshore project in planning at the moment. I stand to be corrected now. I think there's one. The problem is we don't actually have the ports deep enough and with the facilities required to carry these huge turbines out to the sea. you have to think about that. You see the turbine standing like that, but how much of that is under? It's like the iceberg. How much is under the sea? And these are massive.
And then that affects the fisheries, and the fishermen, and our food resources.
Yes, but I think we will see eventually. We will see some facility develop that will allow offshore wind energy to be collected. Now, if you could get that going and solar going, maybe some geothermal. I'm not too sure about that one, but we could have, we could be totally. Move away from oil and gas, and we've moved practically away from coal. I think it's as little as 4% at this stage. Contrast.
Do we have the climate though to move away from
we
coal
can,
and
yeah,
oil?
Yeah, we can.
I know it doesn't heat my
the
house.
experts are telling me we can, and I'll take them at their word. We are. I would remain highly skeptical about solar, but I did manage to visit a solar farm down in Camolan. Huge, and it works very well. So
I didn't have solid fuel in my house.
Yes,
my house would never warm up.
Yeah.
And you mentioned air to water as well. This was a big issue that came up during the aftermath of Storm Eowyn.
Yes,
that you needed when the electricity was gone for days and days and days, months even. People couldn't heat their home because of this new air to water system. So
that's the drawback. And
there are drawbacks to it as well.
That's the drawback. And I think you need to figure out how in situations like that where electricity power lines cease going to a house, there's an interruption. How does somebody heat their house? Are we all allowed to have one emergency fire stove, whatever? I'm not quite sure how it works. But I think, no matter what happens, we have to, by the year 2030, reduce our carbon emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions by 51%. There's no rolling back in that. That is...
Is it doable? Is it doable?
Honestly, from all the evidence I've seen, no. I think the 51% target is too ambitious. Too ambitious. We might get close, but we're not going to achieve it. And the problem, all the experts are saying, is that then you're going to have to buy carbon credits on the European market. And they're talking magic figures like 26 billion, a billion now, to buy these credits. And Ireland will have no choice. So the question is, where does that funding come from? And my colleagues in Carlow County Council are saying, surely we'd be better off spending that 26 billion on projects right now to make sure we don't go into a situation where we have to buy carbon credits. It's a tough one, but let's put it, to be honest, it's not going to go away. And 2030 is only 51%. By 2050, we have to be carbon neutral. And that's a different story.
Do you think, though, it's with everything that's going on in the country, and the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis, the educational crisis. There's a crisis no matter where we're looking at now.
Yes.
Is the public goodwill or conscience, or is the public's interest in the climate 2030? Is it something that's really important to the public?
Okay, I think depends how you look at it. I think you could say people are, yes, I'm concerned about climate and the future. I think people will, if you survey people, they'll say that. But I think once you start scratching the surface a little bit deeper, when they realize what it might cost, they mightn't be quite so happy. I think you can look at the demise of the Green Party at the last general election would really signal that people were concerned, are concerned, but they saw too many restrictions. They saw imposition of taxes, like, you look at the cost of filling your car with petrol or diesel, and how much of that's tax, how much is that carbon tax, and I think
heating your house.
Yeah. Heating your house, it's dear enough.
Even going to Dublin, even getting the train to Dublin has got that the price has gone up. train fares.
If we're going to be serious about carbon, greenhouse gas emissions, like the local rural public transport, here in Carlow Town, we're not too bad. We've got the bus service now. That really helps. We've got the CW1 route and the CW2 route, which I'll have to say helps. Then you've got taxis in the town. You can get a taxi quite easy. You book it and just hope for the best. And then you've got the coach park. So when you go to the coach park, there's links to Dublin Airport, to Dublin, to Kilkenny, to Waterford, to Athy. There's quite good links there. You've also got the train station, which helps. But once you move outside of Carlow Town, you go to Clonegall Village. And I met a couple of residents in various different estates there, and they were saying, God, we'd love to have a bus to go somewhere. So I think we're going to have to start looking at a reasonable bus service to look at the towns and villages across County Carlow. So it's going to have to be really well thought through, because if you look at the Swiss in particular, they're really good at what they do. So you get a bus to the town, and when you get to the town, then you can get the railway station to the larger town, which will bring you to Zurich. Okay. So it's linked.
Yes.
What we need to consider is, for instance, take the Tullow Municipal District. There are 14 towns and villages in the Tullow Municipal District. Tullow has a population of 5,200. That 5,200 is 700 more than the population of the next 13 villages added together.
Okay.
So you can see Tullow is really a very important
district town.
District town, yeah, and that's important. So it would make sense to me that if you could create a public transport, a rural public transport system that would bring people to Tullow as the starting point. And then that the rural system would then take people from Tullow to Carlow. And once we get you into Carlow, then we can start making connections to national transport. But it's also really important that we actually look at timetabling, because it's a bit pointless getting into Carlow and you miss the train to Kilkenny to St. Luke's Hospital half an hour ago.
Yeah, exactly,
So you need to be connecting into the timetabling that's going to make it easy for people to get to St. Luke's Hospital.
So do we have the infrastructure for that?
At the moment, no. But I do think that we're going to have to make a major. Take some of the 26 billion that we're going to pay in carbon taxes and spend that on putting a local rural transport system that everybody can enjoy and use. One of the questions we actually have to think about here is, what should we pay for that? Should that be a free?
Yeah.
That would, in order to get people used to using local public transport, should the buses in fact be free? It's done in some cities around the world.
Luxembourg, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to consider, should we be following the same? Should it always be pay? Mm-hmm. As an Irish taxpayer, we all feel we're paying enough. If it's not PAYE, it's PRSI, it's USC. Then on top of that, it's VAT. And no matter who you are, no matter what you buy in a shop today, you're paying some element of VAT on it, except for some foodstuffs. And then you look at duty as well. So we are actually paying a lot of tax. And people ask regularly, well, what are we getting back for it?
It's a very fair question.
So we do need to look at the various problems facing Ireland. And I suppose that leads me to ask the question, like, what's the Dáil doing at the moment?
Yeah, exactly. We've seen the scenes in the Dáil there during the week. You're an independent councillor. You've been an elected representative since 1999. So that's over, nearly 26 years.
Long years.
So
well, I'd have to question.
Any thoughts on the scenes we saw during the week?
I have been posting about this on Facebook the last week or two. I'm actually embarrassed for them, to be honest. I think we put our faith in the 174 TDs that we elected. It doesn't matter which party or from none. We put it in our faith in all of them. And we're expecting them we're a representative democracy. We're expecting them to represent us. And when you have the shenanigans that's happening in the Dáil at the moment, it's just it's mind-blowing. Like, one piece of legislation has been passed, and that was to increase the number of junior ministers since the new Dáil came into being. There's no committees working at the moment, and we face a lot of problems. Think about mental health, think about health, think about housing, think about the threat of a 25% tariff, as was mentioned before, like coming from the United States, the devastating effect that could have on particularly our pharmaceutical industry. I really do think that they need to get over themselves. It may seem all important to you guys up in the Dáil that there's somebody's got more speaking rights. To be honest, none of us care. What we do care about is the fact that you're there to represent us and to tackle the problems the country's facing and our communities are facing. Guys, you ain't doing that job at the moment. It's time to move on.
Do you think there's a lot of, people say they're on one side and the other, but here we like to talk about, on the Irish Political Roundup, we like to talk about sometimes what nobody else is talking about, and that's what we're doing here now. Do you think too that, is there a bit of misogyny going on? Is there a bit of toxic femininity going on? Is there, and Simon Harris brought up about masculine toxicity. Has everything gone so crazy that, Bronagh Murphy is the first female camcorder?
Yeah.
Is the chair being respected on both sides of the Dáil?
That's different. I actually don't think the chair is being respected. Like, the convention is the chair stands, you stop, you sit. The same will happen in Carlow County Council if the chair takes the microphone. We mightn't necessarily like it, but you might argue one or two lines, but you certainly don't go into the extent that the Dáil has gone, that it's become a Muppet show. And we're sort of wondering, like, these guys are earning 113,000 euros a year to represent us, and what we're getting at the moment are disgraceful scenes on our TV. We're getting the usual social media about all the good announcements that are happening in the constitution. Guys, look, would you ever get real? We have real problems facing this country. You need to sit down and talk to each other. You need to make it work. I don't care how you do it, but like, the vast, vast, vast majority of people are sick of the shenanigans. Please grow up, get moving on, start discussing the problem, start coming up with answers to a problem. But I think you've alluded to something there, Roisin, there about male toxic masculinity, and I suppose the big hit of the season on Netflix is adolescence. I've been fortunate enough, I've looked at it. It's a bit of an eye-opener.
But it's also not real. It's not real life either. So it's all scripted and it's played out by actors.
It is, but surprisingly enough, even say last year before this programme aired, I had spoken to a number of teachers about it, and and I hate even mentioning his name because it gives in some legitimacy in one sense, mentioning Andrew Tate, like his name and his incel, his 80-20, that's being discussed by young lads in, like, think about the Anna Kriegel story, where two young lads killed Anna Kriegel, absolutely heartbreaking for her family. What's going through the mindset there? We need parents to be parents. We need dads to be good dads. And there are very many good dads out there, but there are definitely examples of bad behavior. And I don't think you have to look much further than our MMA guy. I don't even want to mention his name because I don't want to give him credence. But certainly the shenanigans that he's gone through the last couple of years, like, it's just been appalling. He's not a good example for Ireland. Our Irish lads don't want it. I certainly don't want to be reading about it. I think there's plenty of good, decent people doing good work and good deeds. And these are the guys that should be promoted as the heroes for young lads, and let them see that there is so many good things being done, rather than looking at male toxic. I could use a swear word, but I'd say GSs, and we don't need them.
But some could also argue that, you know, are people focusing too much on Conor McGregor being in the White House rather than the message that he was delivering about the immigration crisis? So has that been switched around, concentrating on, but taken away from the fact, okay, whoever delivered that message, but the fact that did President Trump, I'm only talking devil's advocate here, to bring a balance to the conversation. It did the fact that he had Conor McGregor there that has made international news about the immigration crisis that is in Ireland. And then male toxicity. What about feminism toxicity? You had how many female leaders of political parties, and they are just really, some might say, it's not my opinion, I'm just playing devil's advocate, could say that the first camcorder of Ireland, who's made history in Irish politics, could be seen and perceived as being bullied.
Well, I think they're attempting to bull her on both sides. So again, I just say it's time for them to grow up and get on with the job they're elected to do. When you look at some of these gentlemen, you want to call them that, you can't really divorce the message from the personality. What they ink into each other, whether you like it or not. And when you see somebody with the reputation of President Trump inviting somebody from Ireland who's not got a great reputation, who's it a reflection on?
Well, it does have, 148, or correct me wrong, million people following him. So he has the platform. And then if you, from a media background, I'm a PR background, who has the followers, who would have the international recognition that would get it newsworthy and get people talking, which it certainly did have. And then you had the guy, Garen Noon, he was delivering the same message, just because it was someone else. You had everybody standing up for I Stand with Garen Noon, who I never knew until that came out. But the point is the message is a great PR on both sides, and that both are playing PR spin on both sides by taking away from the message of Conor McGregor, which everyone in every street is talking about, is the immigration problems. And so therefore, they're turning on Conor McGregor, which is taken away from the message.
Well, you see, I suppose you look at it from the point of view that if you want to highlight or improve your own standing, it's easy to kick somebody else. Like, you think about this, what did Hitler do in Germany when he wanted to improve his own standing amongst the people? He went after the Jews, right? It's not the way I do it. I like to build up, not tear down. That would be a fundamental difference I would look at. Trump is completely different. I don't think we fully understand the full implications of where he may go. And maybe he's clever. Maybe he's just threatening all the time and pull back, threaten, pull back, threaten, pull back. But
trade negotiations, as our American correspondent Adam Derecha said, it's about trade. It's not a trade war; it's a trade negotiation.
And maybe that's part of his tactics.
He's a businessman, after all.
He is indeed,
Yeah, there's many words you could use from, but he also has a conviction, you know. So I'm looking at that. As I say, there are those who tear down and those who build up. And I'm going to be in the camp of those who build up. And I've mentioned a number of the projects I'm involved in, and I will keep building my community. I'm not going to not listen to my community. I'm listening to it very carefully. And there's certainly difficulties with immigration in this country. I did see some reports during the week where the number of immigrants is declining, the number of people coming in, and they're mainly coming in through Northern Ireland. There are immigrants in this country making fantastic contribution to Ireland. People feel hard done by, but I think if you look at it, when people divide, they're simply looking for someone to blame. So, the housing crisis is an easy one. Like, if you pardon the expression, you'll hear constantly all the time, you have to be a fucking foreigner to get a house in Ireland. That's not fair. It's not the truth. But it's not. I can't expose the truth, because the problem with it is that we've got GDPR, general data protection here in Ireland, and so I as a councillor, I'm not giving a list of who gets. There'll be 49 houses given out in Tullow in the Carlow Road. I won't know the names of a single one of those until such time as I look at Facebook a day or two later and somebody's standing there with a set of keys. Yeah. I've got the keys to my forever home. So I can't combat a statement like, oh yeah, they all went to foreigners. I can't combat that because I don't know who they've gone to. And that leaves decent people in an exposed situation.
Do you see maybe, has the country just been so divided on every issue over the last couple of years, and maybe what the governments and politicians need to do is unite the country? I think local community.
Okay, I think the real problem here is there's two problems: is income or wealth inequality and lack of public housing. Being realistically, the government missed its targets last year, and it certainly looks like it's going to miss the targets this year and next year. I'm sort of grateful that the Tullow area, we have a net housing need of 144, and we have 70 houses coming. So 50% of people on our social housing list will receive a house during the course of this year. And that's not a bad record to have. But then there's another 70 on the list that I want housing for. So I'm looking forward to, another housing project with 49 houses on it there on the Cllr Road in Tullow. So we're constantly having to look and keep moving forward. So when you feel you're ignored, neglected, when you feel that nobody's listening to your housing need, that you are disaffected, yeah, surely you're angry. But I also think the other thing that you need to look at is that there is a widening gap between the extreme wealth and extreme poverty. And I'm not quite sure how it happens, but like the vast majority of billionaires improved their wealth during COVID. And we have to ask ourselves, how do we narrow that gap? Now, I'm not asking for a free ride. Nobody deserves a free ride. But if somebody's working a 39-hour week and working really, really hard and trying to maintain a family, run a car, pay the bills, and at the end of every week, there's €1 left, it's not difficult to see how they would feel very disheartened. And I think this is the first generation coming through now where the young people feel that they will not be able to buy a house. Like when I was growing up, I'm in 61 and I'm sitting, when I bought a house at 24, like, I don't know too many 24-year-olds would be able to afford to buy a house now. 23, yeah. So, we had the expectation that we would be homeowners. Now, we're very lucky if we can live with mum and dad, and we're trying our hardest to save. And the price of houses has gone up 5-6% every year, and that deposit we need to save just seems further and further away. So these are the real issues we need to address, not the rows and the doll. And, they're the two big issues, I think. The huge divide between extreme poverty and extreme wealth and the housing issue. And without those, and I'd follow that with a third one, which is the health issues. People feel like, I ring the doctor, I'm on a medical card, when can I get an appointment? Yeah, you get an appointment on the 14th of April, which year? Oh, 2035. You know what I mean? You sort of, there's something wrong here. that like medical need has to be a serious consideration here. That if there's something wrong with you, you should be seen pretty much straight away. Like the kids with scoliosis that can't get the operations. You know, that to me is like a barometer of how decent our public health services.
Very true.
Why are so many of our nurses, our doctors, our Gardaí up and going to New South Wales and Western Australia? Because it's better pay terms and conditions. So we need to look at what we're doing here and figure it out pretty quickly, because
a lot of our doctors are staying over there because of the conditions within working in with the in the health service and the hospitals over there.
Yeah, so I think we really need to start to be a lot more proactive. And if we're fighting in the dole, we're not being proactive. And, and I don't think it's just up to the government to come up with solutions, by the way. I actually think like we need all the political parties to come together to work out how in 10 years' time we are going to actually have a world-class health system that is the envy of the world. And people are going to be looking, look, the Irish managed to do this, we should be doing the same thing. You know, it's just got to be something better than, I don't know, sometimes you could be very disheartened. But as a local politician, you get people coming into you, and every now and then you have a small victory and you're able to help someone in a big way. You're able to make a change to their life that makes all the difference. And you know, one of the most important things in my constituency office at the moment is a box of hankies.
Wow.
Believe it or not, the number of people that come in now and they're telling you a very genuine story, and tears roll down their face. And that's happening more and more. And it's a very sad thing to see. And sometimes your heart is absolutely breaking for someone. So it's a tough one. And you learn to go the extra mile for that person. And that's why it's important for me as a politician to work with the officials in the council. I can't be tearing the rear end off from that meeting and expecting them to help me the next day. So for me, treat everybody with respect, understand the problem, listen carefully, and do your best. But I think you do need to be brutally honest with people at times. Like if something's simply not possible, you have to be honest with them. And I think I've come across situations where people have thanked me afterwards, didn't like the message at all when I was being honest, but have come back to me afterwards and said, you know, you're only one that told me the truth, and you know, could we try this now? And we move on, we try a different avenue. But I think it's a wonderful privilege to be an elected member. I think it's wonderful to be able to represent people. I think it's wonderful to be able to see a smile on someone's face, see hope coming back where there was none. You know, and sometimes unfortunately, no matter how hard you work, it doesn't work out. But there are the days when you get the occasional thank you card, and I value them and I stick them up on my board in my office, and they're there for me because they're the things that keep me going. When I'm not feeling good about something, look, the thank you card is what keeps me going.
That's brilliant. Well, Willie, it's been fascinating chatting to yourself. I know myself and Roisin have found it really interesting. It's great to find out the work that you're doing
it's lovely to talk to
the local area.
You are at grassroots level, talking to the people and taking that message, the ordinary citizens' issues of the political change to the government level, and maybe you are the politicians who are listening to the people.
Well, thank you, Roisin, and thank you, Paul, for the opportunity to talk to you today and to your listeners. And if anybody wants help with anything, I'd say just please reach out. I'm on social media there. You'll find my number in Carlow County Council. Reach out. Whatever I'll do, I'll try my best. May not always succeed, but I'll try my best, and I'm glad to hear from you. Thank you both.
Thank you.